Hi, I'm Rachel Wolfson, and I'm here at Data Natives Tel Aviv 2016, and I'm with Crystal Valentine of MapR Technologies. Crystal is the VP of Technology Strategy there, and Crystal is going to tell us a little bit about herself and how she's driving innovation with big data at MapR.
Sure, thank you. Well, my role at MapR is a little broadly defined, and I have various capacities that I work at MapR. One is to get out and into the community and talk about the value of our product, which is the Converged Data Platform. Really talk about the ways that it's making an impact with enterprises and organizations around the world, and the sort of next gen use cases that we see as being the most compelling ones. But the other part of my role is to be observant and to talk to our customers and other members of the community to find out about what are the compelling use cases that they are trying to do and can't do yet, and to take that information and back to MapR and help that to inform product development.
Yeah, okay, great. So what do you think are the trends that you're seeing like for the future and now with big data?
So, there are some pretty large shifts happening in the IT enterprise landscape. We're in the midst of a shift that takes place about once every 30 years. If you go back 30 years ago, we saw the growth of the enterprise data warehouse market, and what are now considered somewhat legacy technologies were introduced about 30 years ago: analytical data warehouses, ETL, business intelligence reporting tools. And now we're seeing the emergence of next-gen technologies, which are inclusive of cloud computing technologies as well as big data platforms like what MapR provides. It's a really radical shift. It's a paradigm that supports incredibly high-scale computational problems as well as low latency. But I think that maybe most profound in this shift is that we're also seeing the convergence between traditionally analytical workloads and traditionally operational workloads. So we're seeing not just data warehouse applications where you do some kind of batch reporting to tell you, how sales looked last quarter, but you're actually marrying deep insights from your archive of data, your data warehouse, with your operational workload so that you're able to impact business as it's happening. So it's the convergence of this real-time decision-making process with deep insights that you gain from analytics. And in order to do that, those two things were traditionally kept separate because they couldn't technically coexist in the same cluster. And now we're seeing that, with new data platforms, we have the opportunity to converge those two very different workloads into single applications.
Right. And during your lecture that you gave here, you talked a lot about like how big data is impacting healthcare and cancer research and all that. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Like how are these new fields driving innovation with that?
Sure. So, healthcare is a really fascinating space. It's a heavily regulated space. There are a lot of privacy concerns, but fundamentally the goal is to improve treatment and to improve outcomes. And I think that what's becoming really clear, and you hear this in Washington D.C. a lot as well, is that we're at a moment where we have really incredible technologies, and there are massive data sets in existence. Some are public, some are private, some are shared. But we really ought to be using all of the data that we have available to us, as well as our best technologies, to bring them all to bear on the problem of improving people's lives. And so, the way that we think about individualized healthcare or precision medicine is really the problem of being able to integrate and learn from data that comes from a really heterogeneous set of data sources, including electronic health records, hospital records, genomic sequencing and genetic testing, lab work, as well as published research. Being able to bring all of that information to bear on the diagnosis and treatment for an individual is a problem of data integration, but but it has to be done with care to respect privacy issues and
Right.
and to ultimately make sure that you're making the best decision for that particular patient.
Right, yeah. So do you think, like, with all the privacy issues that, we're encountering now with big data and all that, do you think that we're going to actually overcome that? Because now we're seeing, like, change being created, like, we're using data to, like, improve people's lives. So you think that we're going to overcome the whole issue with privacy?
Well, I think, in part, it will end up being a technical solution. I think that, one of the features that the Converge Data Platform offers is the ability to really control where your data is placed, and if there's a requirement, for example, by a regulator that data sets should not mingle within a particular data center, you can really have fine-grained control over that in order to gain either HIPAA or PCI compliance and so forth. So I think there are technical solutions to what are sort of policy issues.
Yeah. That's great. So Crystal, just really quick, there aren't many women in the field of big data and all that. How do you feel or how did you get involved in this field, and do you have advice for other young women and just women in general who want to get involved?
Sure. I mean, I've been involved in computer science generally since college. That's sort of where I fell in love with computer science. I was fortunate enough to go to a small liberal arts college where, I had really great relationships with my professors and with my peers. So I had the luxury of not really being aware of the gender ratio in my field, I think until grad school. But, it's been a somewhat unremarkable journey for me from a gender perspective. I've never really, dealt with a sort of issue that made me feel like I was in an inferior or disadvantaged position as a result of my gender. And that probably has to do with the quality of people that I work with. But I think that for young people, and when I was formerly a professor, I used to encourage my students to really just go for it. I think that when you're a young woman in this field, technology or computer science, you're going to be judged on the basis of the quality of your work and your merits. So, just study hard, work hard, and then look for mentors along the way. And those mentors might be either women or men, but there are people out there who are going to support you no matter what. And on the bright side, in the meantime, there's usually not a line for the women's room at conferences, so that's an advantage as well.
Plus, for sure. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Crystal, and we're so happy to have you here at Data Natives Tel Aviv 2016. And we're happy to have you and MapR.
Thanks. Thank you.